Welcome to the first unit of Keyboard Skills, Introduction to Piano. Whether you're new to the instrument or have prior experience, the piano can be an indispensable tool in your personal and professional growth. So let's start by considering these questions. What comprises an introduction to piano? How can you practice and refine your skills? And why is having a foundation in piano important to your musicianship? Working with your instructor in class and individually, you're going to further explore these questions. So now let's take a look at the specifics of this unit, the topics and learning outcomes. In this unit, we're going to cover playing note patterns and paradigms, sight reading practice, exploring articulation and expression, improvisation and composing, rhythm training, dictation, and more. In completing this unit, you're going to be able to recognize and convey a range of patterns and sounds on the keyboard, analyze piano music and evaluate strategies when learning and playing, and apply skills and practice critical thinking in professional scenarios. So now let's take a look at some review to help you get started. So to start, let's take a look at the layout of the keys on the piano. As you can see, there are many keys spread out over the entire keyboard. But the important thing to remember is that these keys repeat every octave. So let's say we start on middle C. The C is to the left of the group of two black keys. By the time we go through all 7 notes of the musical alphabet, we will arrive back at the next C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So if you practice finding C's, that'll give you a good idea of where the octaves are on the piano. Now, depending on the size of your instrument, if you have a keyboard, you might have a different range of notes. So it's helpful to find what's the bottom note on your instrument, whether it's a C or an A or some other note. Let's talk about A's. On my piano, the A is the lowest note on the piano. So we have an A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to the A. So what we'll talk about a lot in this unit is a 5-note group. So we'll worry about just 5 of the 7 notes and play them with our 5 fingers. So let's talk about these clusters. If we take a look, we'll see, starting on C, or you could do a cluster of A, starting at the new octave, each group. F is a half step to the left of the group of 3 black notes. So before we go further, let's take a look at half steps and whole steps in more detail. First, we'll establish where middle C is. So we can call this C middle C. That means the rest of the white keys will follow the letters of the musical alphabet, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then finally a C right after that. So some of these white keys are one adjacent note next to each other. So that means that there are no notes in between them, like E and F, or B and C. But other white keys have a note between them, like C to D or D to E. So if there's no notes in between 2 keys, then they are the closest adjacent position and would be considered a half step. So E to F is considered a half step, or B to C. But if there's a note in between them, that would be like 2 half steps. A half step here and a half step here, which equals a whole step. So 2 half steps combined is the distance of a whole step. For example, E going to this note, that would be a whole step. But this note going to G is adjacent and therefore it's a half step. So So not all the white keys are the same distance apart. But when we write them on the staff, let's say this is middle C, simply by writing on the lines and spaces, you will represent all the white keys in a row. B, and then we return to C. So again, some of these are whole steps, some are half steps, and so on. Let's look at the bass clef. So, what's the note to the left of C in the white keys? That would be a B. B, A, G, F, E, D, C. So again, simply by following the lines and spaces in order, we will write the white keys. So we have from C going up, C, or C going down. Now, using sharps or flats, we can alter note, either going up a half step or down a half step. Those will represent some of the keys we're not seeing on the staff here. So let's say we want to go C up a half step. We can write it as a C sharp. That will be a half step up to the black key. Or to that same note, from D, we would have to use a flat. From D to D flat. So many of these notes can be written in different ways. For example, we can write F as an E sharp. So the E will go up a half step to F. So these two notes, E sharp and F, sound the same. Or a C could be written as a C flat, and that would sound the same as a B. Let's talk about making different sounds on the piano. So let's talk about how the piano creates sound. If we take a look, when we press a key on the keyboard, we'll see that the hammer is hitting the string. And when the hammer hits the string, the damper moves off of the string so that the string can vibrate. So you can play the note for a short duration or a long duration. And as long as you hold your finger on the keyboard, the damper on that string will be off until you let go of the key, and then the damper will stop the sound. So with this in mind, you can make short sounds or long sounds. And in addition to that, if you use the pedal, all the dampers are released. So the strings will resonate until you let go. One other thing you can do is create softer and louder sounds. So again, this has to do with how the hammer is hitting the string. Whether the hammer hits the string with less intensity or more intensity. So with these 5-note patterns we talked about, and your knowledge of the layout of whole steps and half steps, as well as articulation and dynamics, you can get started with creating a wide variety of sounds on the piano. Now you're ready to get started with this unit. So remember, ask questions, be creative, have fun, and good luck.